2 nights ago, I read all of Biden's security people. Can you imagine? National defense people. And they said, gee, I hope Hezbollah doesn't attack from the north because that's the most vulnerable spot. I said, wait a minute. You know, Hezbollah is very smart. They're all very smart.
Donald Trump last week calling the terror group Hezbollah very smart. Joining us now, Republican presidential candidate, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. I saw you call him a fool. I think we can agree on that.
That's good. Good place to start.
Yeah, we'll start there. Do you support Joe Biden's efforts to stand with Israel in Israel right now, even as other Arab countries have decided to pull away from the situation and a hospital was just bombed?
Sure. Look, I think it was the right thing for the president to do, to go over there and to show physical solidarity with the Israelis. I think that's a really important message to send. I know he wanted the trip to be more than that, but in the end, the most important thing for him to do right now is to show the rest of the world that we stand solidly with Israel. I think his physical presence helps to convey that better than anything else would. And now, you know, we're going to have to get to work to see how we bring this to a successful resolution. And that's the hard part.
Yeah, and his comments on the hospital bombing, I thought, were very careful, given the situation still unfolding and questions. But, he talked about what he believes and the questions out there. Do you agree with that he can't jump to one side?
Well, I think he should make the decision based on the facts as he sees them, not with any predisposition. Yeah. And, I would have preferred if he hadn't, called Hamas the other team. I think sometimes his choice of language is kind of interesting. But in the end, if we're going to be credible in making sure that we play the role we've always played in the Middle East, which is to try to make sure that while protecting Israel's security, and its existence first and foremost, to then also be a constructive force for peace and stability in the region. We got to make sure we do this based on the facts, because sometimes our friends make mistakes. I don't know the facts in this one yet. I've heard, what the IDF has said. It seems like President Biden is at least preliminarily convinced that they're right. So let's see as the facts come out. I hope it turns out to be true that Israel was not the one behind that, because that would escalate things, as we see already, obviously, even on the rumor, to a level that would make it a lot more difficult to maneuver this to a successful conclusion.
It doesn't make a lot of sense. Political question. I'm curious. We're moving troops. The fear here, of course, is a wider war. There's obviously talk about Iran's involvement. We've been moving troops. We've been dealing with military support for Ukraine. Just reporting this morning about a secret delivery of missiles. Our military obviously needs to be at its strongest, and every possible effort, of course, always made for our military to be ready with all the ranks filled and functioning. That's obvious. Should Senator Tommy Tuberville end his blockade of military promotions?
He should have ended it months ago. So, yeah, he should end it now. He should have ended it months ago. Look, the important thing here is to prioritize what we're doing as a government and as a country. And I think, in the end, given all of the crises around the world, we need to have our military as well prepared as possible. These promotions and putting folks in authority to be able to make decisions on everything that we're doing here and advise the civilian portion of the Defense Department and the White House on what to do is extraordinarily important. And I think that what Senator Tuberville is doing has been ineffective. It's been ineffective on the goal he's setting for changing policy. And at some point, you need to say to yourself, I have to try another method. This one's not working, and it's not good for our country. It's not good for our military.
Why do you think your Republican counterparts in the Senate and his Republican counterpart, why is nobody doing nothing about that?
Well, look, I think they all, Mika, like it or not, like having that power of being able to do it. And so they get reluctant about calling someone else out when they're using it, because they think, well, maybe, 6 months from now, 9 months from now, I'm going to want to do it. And I'm not going to want people to call me out. And so this is a very parochial thing inside the kind of arcane rules of the United States Senate. What they count on is for people to act responsibly, and I don't think Senator Tuberville's acted responsibly in this regard.
So speaking of the Congress, the administration has let it be known that they want $100 billion. That's their proposal, $100 billion aid package. It's going to connect a bunch of things, Israel, but also Ukraine, Taiwan, border security. So two questions to you about that. First, simply, would you support that measure?
I mean, I have to see the specifics of it. All I've seen is the headline on it. But I do agree conceptually with all four of those pieces. So I would increase support to Ukraine, and I've said that publicly. I think it's absolutely necessary to continue to degrade the Russian military and send a very strong message to their allies, the Chinese, who are paying for that war, that we're not backing away, and nor are any of our allies. Two, I think it's time to arm Taiwan now more aggressively. We saw with Ukraine that the delay that Barack Obama started, Donald Trump continued, has put Ukraine further behind the eight ball in this war than they should have. Let's not be in the same spot with Taiwan. That'll also send a very good message to the Chinese. Obviously, the Israeli support is necessary, and we don't know how broad that war is going to be, as Mika just mentioned, and so we need to make sure that they're prepared. And the crisis at our southern border is significant. And, you know, fact is, it's a complicated issue, as you know, because, you know, this, in the last 11 months, Customs and Border Patrol has averaged 200,000 apprehensions a month. Now, you know how many beds we have to detain people at the border? 38,000. So this is a complicated issue that needs resources in a number of different areas to be able to fix the border problem.
The Congress can't do anything about any of those four things because they don't have a Speaker of the House.
Yeah.
And that's the Republican Speaker of the House. Does Jim Jordan have your support?
I just want them to pick somebody. I mean, you know, what I learned...
Wait.
Jim Jordan, though, denies President Biden's election. He was part of the January 6th.
I'm aware of all that, but here's one of the things I learned when I was governor the hard way. People who want to be the executive don't get involved in legislative leadership races because you always lose. The legislative folks want to make their own call on this, their own judgment. They don't want somebody who either is president or wants to be president to be telling them what to do. I've been saying for the last 2 weeks, one, I didn't support the removal of McCarthy, and I think it was a mistake, and I don't think there's anything that Kevin McCarthy did that should have necessitated his removal from office. I think it was a mistake, and this whole crisis starts there. Those 8 folks who decided to remove him, really for personal reasons to support Matt Gaetz, who doesn't like him because he wouldn't rig the ethics investigation for Matt Gaetz. Let's be honest, that's what it was. It's nothing more than that. That was the first mistake. I said that, you know, I know Steve Scalise, and I would have been fine with him. I don't know Jim Jordan. I've never met him. And so it's hard for me to make any comment on that and getting involved. I didn't support Steve Scalise. I was asked what kind of guy he is. I'm not going to get involved in this race because guess what? They can't decide, and I don't have a vote. And I'm not going to.
Chris, you can't say I don't know him, so I really
I've never
don't know
met him.
I mean, come on.
I can say I don't know him because I've never met him.
Chris, do you like winning? I mean,
you know me, Mika. I like winning.
Oh.
I like winning. I like winning every argument with you. So I like winning everything. So let's. Yeah, I understand.
So my point is, if the Republican Party wants to stop losing, and you've pointed out how self-defeating this whole Trump thing has been.
Yes.
Okay, again and again and again in elections of recent past. Jim Jordan's going to help the Republican Party into the future, an election denier? You know what he's done.
Here's what I'm more concerned about, Mika. I'm concerned about the things that John just asked me about. I want to get things done. And the politics of it is something that we're all going to have to contend with later on. But we need to vote a package for Israel. We need to vote a package for Ukraine. We need to deal with the southern border. And the fact of the matter is right now we can't do any of it without a speaker. So I'm not supporting Jim Jordan because I don't know him. But what I'll tell you is I want them just to get it over with. And I, quite frankly, at this point, after 2 weeks, don't care who it is. Pick somebody and let's go. And let's get to work. The American people are tired of sitting and watching these folks navel gaze and snipe at each other and accomplish nothing. And I'm talking about our caucus. That's what they're doing. And it's enough already. So I think we're too much into the personalities and not enough into the work. The work needs to be done. We know what needs to be done. Let's get to it.
Just as a matter of, just to make a point here, without dwelling on this too much, a kind of point of principle here. I'm not going to compare Jim Jordan to Vladimir Putin, but I'm pretty sure you don't know Vladimir Putin either, right? You don't know him.
Yeah, I don't really think we're trying to compare Jim Jordan.
I'm not comparing him, but the standard of like I can't have an opinion about someone I haven't met personally.
No. I didn't say I can't have an opinion. I said I'm not getting involved,
right, okay.
John. I mean, and part of the background for me not getting involved is I don't know Jordan. I've never met him.
Right.
I know Scalise. Yeah. I know McCarthy. Yeah. And so I can have opinions about their character and who they are.
Right.
And so the fact is that I'm not getting involved in the race because I don't have a vote, and they don't like it when you try to get involved in this, and it's not constructive.
So let me ask